of factoring written down and some good examples. Okay, so we're going to go to our journal. So this is what your journal looks like for today. This is how to factor. So we're going to start off with kind of explaining all of these. So really, all of these methods go over factoring a GCF, factor with grouping, factoring with A equals 1, and I'm going to write and when A is greater than 1. It also does that. So that first method that you see is called what kind of method? Yeah, this is the box method. How do we use that? What am I looking for here? What's the greatest common factor between 3x squared and 12x? 3x. What am I looking for here? A GCF. What's the greatest common factor? Yep, 5. Greatest common factor here. And the last one, 4. So this becomes 3x plus 5 times x plus 4. Sweet. What's going on in this next one? What method is this showing us? Look at your leading coefficient. Your leading coefficient is not 1. So this is your grouping method. This is going to have to be grouping. Okay. Can you come in here and I'll try, but I'm doing a video. So probably you're going to have to hold for a second. So let's fill this A times C. 3 times -4 is -12. Adds up to -4. What are two numbers that you can multiply together to get -12? Okay. What are two numbers that you can multiply together to get -12 that when you add them, you get -4? 2 and -6. So +2 and -6. So when I factor this by grouping, I have 3x squared plus 2x minus 6x minus 4. Group it up. You're welcome.
Just put it in parentheses.
Yep, and then it'll let you. Yep.
Okay.
Otherwise, hit the parenthesis first and it'll raise it automatically. Not the parenthesis, hit the divide button first and it'll automatically give you a fraction. Build the top and then the bottom. You're welcome. You're all right, sir. Thank you. Greatest common factor here. X. Greatest common factor here. -2. So when I take an x out of the first one, I'm left with 3x plus. When I take an x or -2 out of the second one, I'm left with a negative times a negative, or negative divided by a negative is a positive. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So GCF x minus 2 times my copycat or my twin, 3x plus 2. Yeah. Okay, this last one is also a grouping. Last one is also a grouping. What did they take out of this first group? What did they pull out of it? An x. What did they pull out of the second group? A 3. These are called the GCFs. Remember, when you put it in factored form, you have the GCF plus the GCF multiplied by your twin. Okay. Yep. Not yet. I'm going to open it up so we can go through these. Violet, if you have to, just go. I'm not stopping. Okay. I've got a video going. Okay. So here are all of the ways that we can factor. Notice that the very first question says what? Yeah, I told you guys that's the number one rule. I would put a big old highlight something, put a box around it, and I would write first. You have to do that first. That is the most important. Is there a GCF? If there is, you need to factor out the GCF. So in this example, I have 4x squared minus 8x. What is my GCF between 4x squared and -8x? What divides both 4 and 8? 4. What divides x squared and x? X. So I'm taking a 4x out. When I do that, I'm writing it off to the side. I have 4x times, let's see, 4x squared divided by 4x is x. Negative 8x divided by 4x is negative 2. That's what it looks like after I factor out my GCF. Okay. If you don't have a GCF, you just go straight down to the no. Straight down to the no. So it says, how many terms are there? You guys don't know what to do when there's 2 terms yet. We'll finish this out tomorrow, but you do know what to do when there's 3 terms or 4 terms. You do know what to do when there's 3 terms or 4 terms. If it has 3 terms and A equals 1, you take A times what you take C, find the factors of C that add up to B. So what are 2 numbers that multiply to 15 and add up to 8? 3 and 5. So the factors that you choose are the factors you use. X plus 3 times x plus 5. What are 2 numbers that multiply together to give you negative 40 that add up to 6? Yeah, this is telling you that A and C multiply to, that's really what that's saying, and add up to. So positive 10 and negative 4. So our factors are 10 and negative 4. So when A equals 1, the factors that you choose are the factors you use. X plus 10 times x minus 4. Okay. If you have 3 terms and it's complex, A doesn't equal 1. What methods can you use? Well, you can use slide and divide. You can use the AC product method and use grouping. Okay. And we also learned the box. So since we have a grouping example right up here with 4 terms, I'm going to use the box for this. I'm going to right now use the box. So let's see. What 2 numbers can I multiply together to get negative 40 that add to negative 3? I'm looking for negative 40 up here, adding to a positive 3. Negative 5 and positive 8. So I'm going to draw my box. What's in the top left? AX squared, 2x squared. What's in the bottom right? The C term, negative 20. What goes in the other 2 boxes? My factors become coefficients, meaning you add an x to them. My factors become coefficients. What's the greatest common factor between 2x squared and negative 5x? Just x, right? What's the greatest common factor between 8x and negative 20? 4. What's the greatest common factor between 2x squared and 8x? 2x. What's the greatest common factor between a negative 5x and a negative 20? Notice that these are both negative. That means that your factor is going to be negative 5. You had a negative factor and a positive factor. Here's your negative factor right here. That means this one is joined with a plus. So your factors are x plus 4 times 2x minus 5. God bless you. I'm going to do the slide and divide. Talk to me about the slide and divide. Anyone? First times the last. So that becomes x squared plus 7x plus 6. So I'm looking for 2 numbers that multiply together to give me a 6. That when I add them, I get a 7. 1 and 6. That becomes x plus 1 times x plus 6. What did I multiply by at the beginning? I multiplied by a 2. That means I have to divide each one of my terms by 2. In the directions in your notes, it says divide by a, right? So let's see. This is just going to be left as, what do I do with this? What happens here? This is simplified. 1/2 is simplified. What do I do with this denominator? Put it in front of the x. So that's 2x plus 1. Can I simplify 6 over 2? What? X plus 3. Those are your two factors. Let's jump on over to the grouping side. Jump on over to the 4 terms with grouping. 4 terms with grouping. So if you have 4 terms, you have to group them together. You put the first 2 together and the second 2 together. What is the greatest common factor between 3x cubed and 4x squared? X squared. What is the greatest common factor between 6x and 8? So when I take out my x squared, 3x cubed divided by x squared is 3x. 4x squared divided by x squared is a positive 4. Positive 2, so plus 2. 6x divided by 2 is 3x, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Greatest common factor plus the greatest common factor, that's x squared plus 2, multiplied by my twin, 3x plus 4. And there you have it. That